Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ustaz Mizi Wahid, and I am first and foremost thankful to Qalbi for inviting me to do this short video. I'm here invited to speak about how to heal and mend broken hearts. So, it is a topic, obviously, that many perhaps could be able to relate to because we've all had our hearts broken at some point in our lives. But the most common association with heartbreaks is that if it is in a relationship, right, in a romantic relationship, in a relationship with someone you love, or someone you have strong feelings for, and then it was not reciprocated, and that could also end up in heartbreak. But heartbreaks happen in many other types of relationships too, like when, as a parent, you get so disappointed when your child ignores you and disappoints you. You also feel, heartbreak when your friend breaks the bond that you've built over a decade because of an issue of mistrust. They told others the secrets that you shared in confidence with them, and it makes your heart feel so hurt and so broken as well. So, the topic for today is really how do we mend and heal broken hearts. It's not an easy thing to do in a short video, for sure. I've conducted workshops that last for 2 days just to address this topic, 2 full days, and indeed, it is not going to be sufficient. But I hope it is going to be advice that is enough for a start, and hopefully we can do something together in the future. All right. So, you first of all, when you feel like your heart is broken, I think the reason why people call it heartbreak is because number one, love is often associated with the image of a heart, which is really not the actual image of a heart, right? But it is often associated with that. Number one. Number two, it's because when someone rejects you, or someone betrays your trust, or someone chooses someone else other than you feel the literal physical pain on your chest, and you say that, oh, my heart aches from this situation, right? Even though biologists will say that's not exactly where your heart is. But the point here is, we feel pain when our promises are broken. We feel hurt when the people who we depended on so much, or people who we've helped a lot, suddenly turned their backs against us and they walked away. Now, when something like that happens, the first thing I like to do is to just remind myself, okay? To calm myself down and remind myself this, that when it comes to human relationships, the chances of people disappointing you is pretty high. Okay? Why? Because human beings are pretty fickle in general. One day we say we like ice cream, the next day we say we don't like ice cream. One day we say, I love to go to, Australia. Then another day you say, you know what, I hate Australia. I don't like the food there or the weather there or whatever, right? That's the nature of human beings. One day we say we're madly in love with a person, the next day we say I'm not in love with them anymore. And unfortunately, sometimes this happens to you. It's not that you do this to someone, but it happens to you and you are the victim. And so, how do you deal with news like that? How do you deal with the news of someone that you so adore, that you cherish, that you treasure, that you can't stop thinking about every day? And then one day they just break the news to you and say, you know what, I think it's over. I think we're done. I don't think this marriage is going to happen. I know we're engaged, but I think I've had a change of thoughts, and or they might give an excuse, or I made some prayer and then the prayer gave me some signs, and the signs were not pointing towards you. Whatever the excuse or reason may be, the one that's left most hurt and most broken is you. And so the question now is, how do I deal with it? The first, as I mentioned, is I remind myself that this is kind of expected, because human beings have a tendency to change their thoughts, their feelings. Now, when I say all of this, some of you might be thinking, "Oh my goodness, Ustaz, are you serious?" Now I'm even more scared to be in a relationship. Now I'm even more intimidated to actually settle down and find a spouse and find a life partner. But that's the truth. In my book, You Are Loved, I said that this is love is a risk that we all have to take. It's always a risk. And the risk is that the person will be with us and remain loyal and faithful to us for the rest of our lives. And there's a 50% chance of that happening. There's also a 50% chance of the opposite happening, which is it could be short-lived. It could last for 10 years, 5 years, 3 months. I have had a couple who wanted to divorce after 2 weeks. I've dealt with couples like that before, and it could be as short as that or as long as, I counseled a lady once. She has been married for 40 years. When the husband said that he wanted to leave her for someone else, by the way, she was completely distraught, obviously. So I think the pain is always there. It's regardless of your age, regardless of how long you've known the person, regardless of how much time and money and moments that you've invested in them or in the relationship. When it's time for it to finally end, it just ends. And the thing that I've learned is that when you so badly want to hold on to somebody in your life who wants to leave you, who wants to walk out of the relationship, it does not matter how strongly you hold on to them, how tightly you grab their wrist, their hands, their arms. No matter how hard you try, even if you beg, even if you go down to your knees and beg them, if they've made up their minds and they've decided to leave, they're gonna leave. It's not gonna make much of a difference, right? And I'm not saying here, by saying all of this, I'm not saying that you shouldn't try to make things work, okay? That's why this video, again, does not do justice because it's very short. There's so many variations and possibilities of what your situation might sound like and another person's situation, right? So our stories are all a bit different. But I'm just fast forwarding it till the end, meaning you've already tried to make things work. You've already tried to communicate. You've actually attempted to go to counseling, and you guys did attend counseling, and you've done all of that. And the person still insists in breaking up. Then it doesn't matter what you try to do at that point, because when somebody wants to leave you, sometimes all you need to do for your own good, for your own well-being, for your own sanity, is to let them walk. When somebody wants to walk away from you, let them walk, because that is going to be a blessing for you in the long run. When everything's happening, it's going to be difficult for you to accept. In the heat of the moment, they just left you, they just walked out. It's only a week, it's only been a month. Of course, you'll still be crying, you'll still be in pain. But give it some time. That's another thing I've learned. Give it some time, right? I love the story of, in Surah Yusuf, the story of Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam, when he lost his son Nabi Yusuf once, and then he lost another son later on, Binyamin, at the later part of the story. And he was so heartbroken when he lost his favorite son, favorite child. But he dealt with it with Allah. He dealt with it by getting close to Allah, by communicating with Allah. He said, Innama ashku bathi wa huzni ilallah. Verily I complain of my sorrow and my sadness only to Allah. Which means what? You imagine a situation where you have been heartbroken and you've been weeping and crying and you can't seem to control yourself. Well, wake up in the middle of the night. I want you to imagine yourself praying, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. You can't sleep. You keep thinking about the person, about the relationship, about how hurtful it is. then what you do is you take wudu and you perform your tahajjud prayers, your night prayers, right? And simply ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you. Allah already knows. But even Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam said, I complain of my sorrow and my grief. So he complains. Complaining here is not like the kind of complaining that we normally do when the bus is late, or when the item you ordered was delivered to you was the wrong size, and or the food at the restaurant is cold. Not that kind of complaining. This is a different kind of complaining. The complaint where in Malay we would use mengadu, right? So we're complaining to Allah by sharing actually what's going on, or what we're suffering with at the moment. Now, Allah obviously already knows what you're going through, but even the prophets still communicated their pain. When Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was going through what he went through in Ta'if, right? He made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because he knew that Allah already knows what he's going through. And so you need to do that too. You need to make dua. When the people around you are not enough to numb your pain, you need a spiritual solution. And salat is a spiritual solution to your heartbreaks and heartaches. Du'as is a spiritual solution. Reading the Quran, listening to good advice is good. Surrounding yourself with good people is also helpful, inshallah. So these are some of the things that you can do, okay? Sometimes you may also need a bit of time out, because you need to figure out what your triggers are. Sometimes your triggers will be social media. So the more you surf on social media, the more you see pictures of other people being happy and you're not with someone. Therefore, you say, I can never be happy, which is a false perspective. You should just take a break then, okay? Because whether you want to compare yourself with others' fortunes or not, one thing's for sure, you are definitely doing it to your disadvantage. You're hurting yourself by doing that. And so you need to know what are your triggers, what are your weaknesses, and avoid them temporarily until you're ready to get back again, because you feel like, okay, I've accepted that this is my fate. This is my fate. This is what I have to live with. This is what I have to deal with. I need to begin living a new life, a life without that person anymore. Right? It's a kind of reality check that is hard to do in the beginning, but eventually, inshallah, with determination, with husnul zan to Allah, believing that He's doing this for me, not against me, everything will fall into place eventually, inshallah. Okay? So that is the little piece of sharing that I can do at this moment. And I do hope that one day we can meet up in person and we can do a program together, inshallah. I would like to end with a little prayer for you. I pray that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you healing. May Allah mend your broken pieces. May Allah, grant you peace and tranquility in your life. May Allah give you the strength to love again. May Allah give you the faith to trust again. And may Allah guide you and direct your steps so that you may fall in love with the people who will bring you closer to Him and not further away from Him. Ameen. Ya Rabbal Alameen. Thank you. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.